Coming up today on Locked On Texas Tech, Grant McCaslin goes Captain America and harsh realities incoming for the student athlete. Next on Locked On Texas Tech.
You are Locked On Texas Tech, your daily podcast on the Texas Tech Red Raiders. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Great to be with you again today on Locked On at Texas Tech on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Always free and available on YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts. Appreciate you making us your first listen. And today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. And right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 with any winning $5 bet. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started with the only Chris Level. I'm Casey Cowan. Chris, great to be back with you, and a few different things to dive into here today. As we are nearing the end of the week, we may also be nearing the end of a timeline within a courtroom as we're trying to sort, well, many things out, I guess everything out under the college sports sun. And we'll focus in just a moment on one of those things that's going to bring some not only intended consequences, but I'm sure some unintended consequences as well. Got a couple of questions to throw at you about possible, likely, or maybe guaranteed roster size changes that are going to hit college football programs across the country, and what that could mean both locally and from afar. But before we get into that, I actually wanted to look back to something that we did not get to yesterday as we were listening to some thoughts from Red Raider basketball head coach Grant McCaslin. This was somewhat outside of the Texas Tech wheelhouse, but maybe not so much, as Coach McCaslin has an opportunity coming up to put on the stars and stripes. He's going Captain America as he'll be taking part in USA basketball versus the world. I think 18 and under, 19 and under, a couple of go-rounds here. I'll let him explain it to you before we get into some of how that could actually come back to impacting Texas Tech. Here's Red Raider head coach Grant McCaslin.
You know, what a remarkable opportunity, really, and a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, and it'll be for the next 2 summers at this point, hopefully, with the under-18s this summer and under-19s next summer. And what I'll tell you is the way I look at this genuinely is the opportunity to serve and love the people that are a part of USA basketball, and how do we build this and continue to grow what we hope to be the best country in basketball. And Sean Ford has been super awesome, and I'm so thankful for the opportunity. But to work with Tommy Lloyd, who's one of my dear friends, Micah Shrewsbury, who will be the other assistant when we go to Argentina. And there's nothing like representing your country. And so first and foremost, it's just an honor to be able to do that. And hopefully I'll get to serve these guys. And then there are some benefits, obviously. You get to be around the top 30 at this point players in the country in this age group. A lot of them have made decisions to go to universities, and really it's just about building relationships with people. I mean, I was a court coach 3 years ago, maybe it's 4 years ago now, it goes fast, and still friends with a lot of those guys that I got to be there, and I was only there for 4 days. And so really to be able to be a part of something for just short of a month really will be great no matter what happens moving forward, just because those relationships, I think, cultivate, and you're able to be around great basketball minds and great basketball players.
So something maybe that's flying a little bit under the radar for a Tech basketball fan, but Coach McCaslin, I believe, will soon be headed to Colorado to take part in this. It'll be the 2024 FIBA Under-18 Men's AmeriCup, as he mentioned, possible opportunity next year as well as far as an under-19 team. These positions are chosen by the USA Basketball Junior National Team Committee. You mentioned, or you hear him mention Arizona head coach Tommy Lloyd to be a part of it as well. And so an awesome honor and privilege, I'm sure, for Coach McCaslin. But what about our selfish interests? It's also something I want to get into with you, Chris, because as he talked about there, like establishing some relationships with really good basketball players is no small thing, I'm sure, as it relates to the future.
Yeah, you hear him mention Tommy Lloyd. Obviously, that's a couple of Big 12 coaches now as we look at it. You hear him mention Micah Shrewsbury. He's the head coach at Penn State. you hear him mention also being a court coach, which is, I think you're not a full-fledged assistant or the head coach, but you're there, and it's just more of a shorter time frame commitment. And one of those guys in this case, see if you remember this name, Ben McCollum. and he's friends with Grant, which is why that name was so hot and heavy in Grant's first offseason here about trying to add him to his staff and the possibility, because they've known each other for a long, long time. So anyway, there's some, that's the coaching part. But coaches want to do this for a variety of reasons. I think, one, it is quite an honor. It really is. I mean, when you get to represent the U.S. in a, national or world competition as it relates to, with the Olympics in mind and all the different things and international competition, all that stuff, that's just there's something different about that, right? And I think that when somebody makes that phone call to you, you don't even think about it. You just say yes. And I think that's what Grant has done. And he was a court coach, I think, several years ago, as you heard him say. And now this is the next step. And I don't know if eventually he can get to be the head coach or if this will just be this summer and next summer, and that'll be it. And I don't know if they really limit, certain coaches, so it's, I guess, fair. But let's get into that part. He will. So I'm looking at there's some 24s on here, the kids that have signed with colleges that are gonna miss some of their school's summer stuff to go play in these tournaments and play for this team and everything. And then they've already committed to schools this fall. That includes Illinois, Purdue, Duke, Arizona State, Alabama. Okay. And there's also a Providence kid that's committed on this team, but he's at 25. But you got a whole bunch of uncommitted players that are on this team, I think 4 of which are from the state of Texas, that are next year's class. So heck yeah, man. I can be around you. I can coach you. I can figure out, maybe Texas Tech is a fit for you. Maybe Coach McCaslin and you can build a relationship. Maybe, and then here's something that you really could never think about like you can now, that years ago you couldn't really do this. But even if you weren't to land any one of these guys, guess what? If the portal becomes an option for any one of them, including the kids that have signed for college, going this fall, maybe you're a soft place to land. Maybe you get because of a relationship, and you know what I'm about. I know what you're about. And then also Grant could be like, hey, I know a lot of these kids. I don't want any part of that one. It works both ways. You're like, hey, he's not about the team. He's who knows? There's all kinds of intelligence that you could pick up, but from a Tech basketball standpoint, and that's partly why, yes, you want to represent your country. Yes, these guys are all basketball junkies. They want to be around the sport and all those things because they genuinely just love it. But I mean, that's the big advantage for college coaches getting the nod here, is that there could be a payoff for you. You could have one of these guys legitimately playing for you. And one of the 24 kids is a center. That is, I'll just tell you his name right now. It is Jaden Quaintance. This is somebody that is committed to Arizona State. So Grant can also understand what Jaden Quaintance is about over this period of time, because guess what? You're going to play him next year. So there's some of that as well. But I think it's pretty fascinating. It's really cool, and I'm really glad for Grant, because I think he appreciates the honor, because they don't just hand it out to everybody. It's a diverse group. It's a group that is young, old, in between. There's just kinds of some different dynamics there. But this is kind of the next wave of the star in the sport, and these guys just haven't really made it yet, but they're kind of that next wave, and it's pretty fun for Grant to kind of get to mold some of that, and then maybe glean some some of his own information as well.
Yeah, and I thought I saw something like maybe 9 or 10 consecutive gold medals for this team. So congrats to Coach McCaslin. Best of luck in the upcoming competitions, and they'll certainly be keeping an eye on that. Something else we're keeping an eye on as we get towards the end of the week is court resolution. First, today's episode brought to you by Yahoo Finance. Wouldn't it be great if you could see all of your investment and retirement accounts in one place? Well, with Yahoo Finance, you can consolidate your views from multiple accounts into one hub and access the expert analysis you need to tend to your entire portfolio with confidence. When it comes to your financial future, you may think you've done it all. You've saved, you've researched, you've invested all that you can, but now you need to take those investments to the next level by using what every financial great uses. Yahoo Finance. For more than 25 years, Yahoo Finance has been the brand behind every great investor. And whether you're a seasoned investor or are looking for that extra guidance, Yahoo Finance gives you all the tools and data you need in just one place. They're the number one finance destination, producing a holistic look at the financial news cycle, including breaking news, original editorial perspectives, analyst ratings, independent research, customizable charts, and a whole lot more. And with a community of over 90 million users each month, their real strength is helping you on your way to financial success. So for comprehensive financial news and analysis, visit the brand behind every great investor at yahoofinance.com, the number one financial destination. That's yahoofinance.com, yahoofinance.com. You want to get into sports broadcasting? Did you know how much you would need to know about litigation? I had no clue once upon a time. We need the People's Court soundtrack.
Judge Wapner.
Yeah, I didn't know we were needing like robes and gavels and all these things to discuss some of this stuff, Chris. But we'll focus in on one particular aspect of it today. As you've probably been seeing this week, this conference or that conference agreeing to some of these, I guess, terms and conditions. And so we're getting close to the end, at least for now. Kind of feels like these things never end, but and some resolutions and some big time changes. And the one to focus in on here today, this generated quite a bit of conversation among our listening and viewing audience, and I know those outside that as well, is impacting a roster size for a college football program specifically. And Chris, I've conflicted in so many ways about this, but regardless of how you feel about it, this is coming down the pipe. I think this is something that you can rest assured is going to be here. And when we talk about the changes, you just wonder how it could impact, obviously, again, going back to Texas Tech. And we talked about this a little bit, I think, earlier in the week or maybe late last week when you're talking about walk-ons. I think we could get into a redshirt conversation as well. But I'm curious in general, do you feel like this is one of those things that absolutely is going to be a part of this change, in that you will be going down to what has been proposed to be maybe an 85 or 95 player limit or roster size? I think previously you had 85 scholarship spots, but you could have a roster of 115, 125, 135. I mean, some of these numbers grew quite a bit, but I mean, is this something that we can go to bed at night feeling like, yeah, this is going to be a part of the change? Is it 50-50 that it could be a part of it? What do you think the odds are that you do see these roster sizes actually adjusted?
Wasn't that the Robert Earl Keen song, "The Road Goes On Forever and the Party Never Ends"?
That's right. The litigation never ends.
and I think though that the party in the courtroom is about to stop. Like, I think at some level permanently, which is why the NCAA and the Big 12, they're just running up to turn their draft card in. Like, I can't change my mind. Like, yeah. Because part of the deal is that by agreeing to this and getting this through the court system and approved and all those things, there's the promise in there, no more lawsuits. This stops. You can't keep suing us. We need stability, and everybody's kind of on the same page there. And so that's partly why you're seeing, some of these like unanimous approval. I mean, like everybody unanimously voted. I mean, it's crazy how many of these folks are running to turn their quote unquote draft card in. Don't change your mind. But I can't wait to pay out 20 to 25 million a year. Like, hurry, don't, because honestly, Cowan, it's a bit of most people think it's a bit of a lowball offer.
Really?
It's because they've agreed to go back over 10 years and back pay to 2015. But I think that the schools and the NCAA are saying, what if they just get real frustrated and go, you know what? We're just going to tack on 5 more years. We're going to go back to 2010. I mean, where does it stop? And I think that's part of what that's part of why they're in such a hurry to get this approved. And I think that they feel like the dollar figure is palatable to everybody's kind of had a bit of a heads up. And I think so that's just kind of where we're at. But that's why I think you're seeing these institutions and leagues and NCAA just running to approve it and say, please don't change your mind. Let's be done with this. Let's move on. No more lawsuits. We'll start paying folks, and this is the next wave, and away we go. With all that, the devil's in the details, though, and I don't know when we will become aware. Because honestly, I think the next 6 months will determine a lot of. You have roster limits, you have unlimited scholarships, you have Title IX, you have. Who's in and who's out as far as the revenue sharing. There's a variety of kind of the topic wheel that you could spin to kind of get into here on what will ultimately be determined over the next several months, because one question leads to another, and then it leads to another, and away we go. And I'm obviously curious, like you are and everybody is, what exactly is this going to look like from a football standpoint? So let's keep this in the sandbox of just college football right now, because there's many other aspects this will touch, and that's what, based on what football decides, that's unfortunately what leads to all the other questions about all the other sports and all those things.
Yep.
I think that the NCAA had said, as part of these conversations, they have said, well, folks, the NFL they have a 53-man roster, only 45 of which are active on a Sunday. Why in the world do you need 120 spots on a roster? And that's like right now, that's what the Matador Club pays out. They pay a base fee to 120 football players for Joey, 85 of which are on scholarship. So they are able to pay for school and then I guess do something else with that money that they may be given in exchange for community service. This is just the tech example.
Right.
But it gives you an example. There's 35 kids that are on your team that aren't technically on scholarship. There used to be like the preferred walk-on, to where you had your scholarship guys show up, and then you had there was like waves. And so I think it used to be like either 10 or 20. I want to say it was maybe closer to 10. But you had the preferred walk-on when you could say, okay, when we report in August 1st or late July, the preferred walk-on is also allowed to report with the scholarship guys. And the rest of the team, i.e. the regular walk-on, they couldn't show up and join the team until the first day of classes, which was late August, early September. So they would have missed all of fall camp, which, hurts their chances to really do much damage. But you could crown, I think it was about 10 kids that the preferred walk-on status. And that was like a tip of the cap to like, okay, you're a bit different. We think you have a chance. We may actually need you. We want you in here learning all this stuff, getting in shape and learning the schemes and all this stuff. And typically those would be the types that would eventually be placed on scholarship a year or 3 down the road. And so what they're proposing now is they're just saying, and it's going to land on either 85 or 95. And I have a variety of questions about that. But I mean, I think that this is next fall. This is fall of 2025. And I don't really grasp, okay, does every program out there phase phase these guys out? Do you just one day show up and it's like Major League and you're peeking through your locker and like seeing if there's a pink slip through there, or like the red tag, and then
Right.
and then you realize, man, somebody's played a trick on you. I don't know how that's supposed to go, but we've all seen. I mean, Jackson Hughes, Michael Harrison Pilot, Jason Llewellyn, Cam Brown. You've got legit people on your team that are classified as a quote unquote walk-on.
Yeah.
And that avenue's closed, or do those guys, when we have to say, okay, we got to get pen to paper and we got to come up with our roster, those guys are probably on it. But you know what I'm saying? I mean,
well, it's got to be at the expense of somebody. Right?
Exactly.
Like there's somebody that's got the red tag in the locker, I guess.
But this may change. I hate it because we're supposed to be about access to the student athlete. This is going to limit access severely for the college football player. There's a million ways this conversation could go right now, but one of the things is.
First, today's episode brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook, and it's playoff time in the NBA and NHL. Baseball's in full swing, and FanDuel is your place to bet on every game. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $150, win or lose. And you can bet on everything from slap shots to home runs, slam dunks, and all in between, all on an app that's safe, secure, and easy to use. So what's the holdup? Get in the mix now on all the action by visiting FanDuel.com/lockedon and make your first bet an automatic win with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook.
There's a million ways this conversation could go right now, but one of the things is, I mean, the group of five programs may say we're not opting into revenue sharing. And they may be able to carry as many scholarship players as they want. So maybe there is a place for this group to go. And you could see Abilene Christian and North Texas, who are on your schedule next year, say, well, we're going to carry 100 scholarship guys. Now the school has to fund the excess there. You can't just say, well, we'll just have as many scholarships as we want. No, there's a cost there. And so institutions have to decide, this is what we're willing to do. And we're not willing to go more than that. But I think that the theory has been floated that there could be some unlimited scholarships, based on the group of five schools that aren't opting into the revenue sharing. So again, this is where you get into the different sets of rules and all those things. And keep in mind, folks, this doesn't factor into NIL at all. Like what, geez, Cowan, this is like such the rabbit hole. But the revenue that each school, is expected to share, that's as far as I understand it. And again, I'm fascinated by the details here because that's really where the story is what exactly is all of this look like, and how does it affect everybody in the athletic department, not just a college football program. But it's my understanding that it's up to each institution to decide who you are sharing that revenue with. You're going to give it all to football? You're going to give mostly to football and some to men's basketball? You're going to have to kind of spread it out across the department? Because most folks are going to say, to be competitive, we have to give it to football. That's what makes the revenue.
Right.
But then you get into Title IX issues, and then you could get into state-by-state issues. Well, this state views Title IX this way, and you better adhere to our Title IX policies in this state, whereas that state may view it completely different. You see, that's where we get into a whole fascinating set of questions and potential problems, and then you also run into, if football doesn't get the majority of it, football players could get together and they could go sue the college football playoff. They could go sue whatever and say, folks, we made all this money. It's our sport that makes all this money, and no one can deny that. And so we're sitting out, we're suing, whatever, and I don't know. So there's a lot of moving parts there, but it's very confusing. It makes my head hurt.
Yeah, that's why there's both intended and unintended consequences coming down the pipe, and maybe some that we hadn't even considered. But I think it is going to require some clarity and some reality checks probably included with that as well for some of these student athletes who are going to be disgruntled that maybe that revenue is not coming their way, but you may be in a position that doesn't generate any of it. And that's kind of where I get to. I mean, I've pretty much missed the boat on the college sports sentimentality front. Like, I just wasn't born in that era. I wasn't around then when it really was. I mean, I've always viewed it as professional amateur sports. You know, that's what it's been in my lifetime. You want to see real amateur sports, you can go to just about any high school on Friday night and find that happening, which, by the way, some of them are a ways away from amateur, it seems like, as well, given some of the resources invested on a Texas high school football front. But so I apologize for missing the sentimentality boat, and I know some of you can probably correct me on where I'm going wrong or what I'm missing as far as the intent or the nature of what college sports should be. But Chris, I know that some are concerned, like with the shrinking roster size, like the urgency or the pressure that it puts on these players to perform. And hey, if you don't perform, you're probably out of here. And I get to kind of thinking, well, that just sounds a little bit like the real world. So I don't know if I'm supposed to feel really bad about that, but I know some do. And, you know, I kind of get to thinking about like red shirts. Like, do you have a chance to redshirt anybody if you have this smaller roster size and you're really needing guys to contribute now? Like, how much time can you actually spend with a guy on the shelf before it's like, all right, well, I mean, we've either got to use your scholarship in another way or we got to get you to contributing. I mean, there's just so many different things to consider here. The walk-on is just kind of the tip of the iceberg, I think. But then you might even talk about like what we would previously, I guess, consider to be maybe a developmental kind of guy or like a high school offensive lineman coming into the picture. And you're like, yeah, maybe in a year and a half or 2 years, you know, he'll be contributing. I wonder if those things are just going to be like antiquated thoughts of the past in this new era.
Yeah, well, you touched on a lot there. Real quick, as it runs through my mind, it's going to likely change the way you structure a roster. It will change the way maybe you offer kids or don't offer kids. Whereas like a lot of schools just throw out 100 offers and just see who bites. Some of those are committable offers. Some of them are not. But I mean, do you really want to take this player? Are you sure? Because he's going to take up one of your very precious spots. You know, this isn't just kind of throwing mashed potatoes at the wall and seeing what sticks anymore. I mean, you're limited. It will change the way you practice, I think, because let's just localize this a bit. And I mean, if there's no walk on, there's no Baker Mayfield. Guy won the Heisman Trophy. He was good enough to start for you as a freshman, and then he transferred and did all these things. I mean, TJ Watt, one of the best players in the NFL right now, walked on at Wisconsin. You see what I mean? So that's the part that I think is a bit tricky. And there's been a walk-on every program in the country that has persevered, made it. I mean, you know, we've had some fairly high. I mean, you don't get Tyree Wilson, folks, if there's no walk-on. I mean, think about it. I mean, that's extremely real. Or to get Tyree Wilson to join your team, you have to go, hey, dude, we're putting a red tag in your locker, and so you're out because we've got to move this one in so we can place him on scholarship. But that's the kind of limitations and movement and I would think the Tyree Wilson and the Baker Mayfield examples really hit home because they were really good. Mayfield obviously is still playing in the NFL. Tyree Wilson in the NFL, but I mean these are very real, tangible examples that happened here. But as far as the sentimentality of it, it is a bigger business now than ever before. Here, and that's the thing is like you can look at the business of college athletics, and we can look at kind of the chaos and some of the problems, I guess, that we would view them as the sport is suffering. No, it's not. It's thriving. It couldn't be any more popular. Wait till you see the ratings for these games and the expanded playoff and all these things. It's the February through July portion of the year that we all get sick of. We all love the August-ish until December. That's our favorite, and that couldn't be any more popular. It's making more and more money. But the sentimentality as it relates to players, they're still young men, yes, but these are professionals. There is no other way around it. Anybody that tries to say student athlete or whatever, that is all changed. They are all making more money in a lot of cases, more than you and I will,
Right.
combined this year and next. Now it's a job they can only have for a year or 4. And sometimes the job pays more at some places better than others and all those things.
Yeah.
But with this revenue sharing, this doesn't affect NIL at all. Those are separate. And so you get your revenue share. You can go get the NIL portion of things. I mean, you kind of cobble together a pretty good way to go about it for yourself. If you are, and what else is going to happen is if football programs say, okay, 90% of this revenue share is going to football, or whatever the percentage that each athletic director, each campus decides, how do you divvy that up? And the NCAA is kind of what you read in some of the – I listen to Dan Wetzel and Ross Dellinger. They've been all over this stuff, and they do a good job work for Yahoo, and Yahoo's associated with Rivals, so I kind of defer to them. Zach Barnett at Football Scoop has been all over this, but there's some folks that have put this together to where they'll tell you the NCAA is kind of suggesting to people like, to localize it, like Joey McGuire, here's how we think football coaches should allocate funds to their roster. Each position should be assigned a dollar figure. This is across the country.
Yep.
With the Power 4 leagues. And so it's up to, but then how do you what do you think a starting quarterback should be worth? What do you think the left tackle should be worth? But you are now going to have to attach a dollar figure to this. And then what happens like last year? Does Barron get to change his salary in the middle of the year when Shuck gets hurt because he's now the starting quarterback? Hey, does Jake Strong get an extra bump that week because he started? I mean, you see what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, so there's – yeah, it's a lot to try to process, but that's what the James Blanchards and the Joey McGuires and the folks of the world in charge of each program, when they get the dollar figure, that's what they're going to be tasked with, Cowan. And that part is we are deep down the rabbit hole now, but that's the reality of what could be coming, and very, very soon.
Ooh, baby, it's a wild world. So buckle up and make sure you're subscribed on YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts so you miss nothing as these resolutions come to pass and changes are implemented. Enjoyed it as always. Chris will be back on the other side to wrap up the week with plenty more to get into on the next round. Looking forward to it. Well,
I'd say I enjoyed it, but I think I talked with my hands too much in that episode. I was a bit fired up. It's very confusing. It's just but this is the reality, folks. So yeah, buckle up. But this is why I just can't wait for games to be here, because it seems like the games are what we miss and what we like, and that's when everything seems so calm. I don't know, but yeah, everybody can put down the gavel. You too, Judge Wapner, and I guess we'll do it again tomorrow, man. But yeah, we're close to a settlement, it appears.
I think maybe for some Tech fans out there who are like, I don't like this. I'm not feeling this. The point where you said, hey, if this comes to pass, there would be no Baker Mayfield. Some are like, wait, are you trying to convince me to like this? I should be on board.
He was your starting quarterback for the better part of the season. I'm just saying, it's like, yeah. I mean, Cam Brown is your number 2 right now. He wouldn't, I guess you look at somebody else and just kick them off and to keep Cam Brown. But that's my point, is like, some of the walk-ons have been high profile, but I get the Mayfield. But I mean, the guy did win a Heisman Trophy. Yeah, he's kind of a jerk a lot of the time, but he did win a Heisman.
Yeah. Okay. We don't even have enough time to get into more Mayfield thoughts on that, but appreciate your time as always, and we appreciate you guys being out there. And hope to see you back for the next round on Locked On Texas Tech.